It seems that a little bit of good wood can turn some good things into great things. It turns a hot dog into a corn dog. It turns corn mash booze into bourbon. And it turns a third date into sex, which I've heard is great. Also, it turns tomatoes into something very beautiful. So typically tomatoes are pickled, and they're pickled in sort of a vinegar base. And they're really fantastic. They have a really cool flavor to them. They're really zippy. But fermented tomatoes, it really transforms the taste a bit more. And if you're doing it in a barrel, it really, really transforms the flavor because it's pulling the tannins and the flavors from the oak, as well as all of the other aromatics and the spices that are present as well. And this is going to be a fermentation process. So we're not relying on acids or vinegars to stabilize things. This is going to be sort of a living experiment, plus all of the benefits that wood gives. So we're going to see what it takes to ferment tomatoes in a sort of old school style. So we have these perfectly sized tomatoes. I think that the right size is about as big as you can fit in your mouth without struggling. There's a joke in there somewhere, you'll figure it out. Some people prefer them much larger, and I think that sort of depends on how long you plan on having them ferment. So smaller tomatoes, shorter fermentation window, and that's sort of what we're going to go with here. So with the sort of sweetness within these small, they're called plum tomatoes, the sweetness of these tomatoes, the tannins and the natural flavors from the oak, plus the zip and the bite from the peppers and things that I'm going to add, I think that this is all going to really coalesce into something that's really amazing. Since these stay probably throughout the entirety of the winter, I'll probably be eating these for the foreseeable future. So, let's get into it. You will need as many tomatoes as your vessel or pre-waterlogged barrel will allow, while saving about 2 to 4 inches of headroom at the top to add a weight. For aromatics and spices, I used grape, bay, horseradish, currant, dill, and cherry leaves. In terms of spices, I used garlic, horseradish, peppers, peppercorns, allspice, and I planned on using a sliced onion, but forgot in my pickling frenzy. Obviously, a shitload of salt will be needed as well. You want to start by weighing your tomatoes, as this will determine how much salt you will use. It also gives you bragging rights on how out of control your pickling hobby has become. You will need to soak your tomatoes and wash the surface, similar to how you clean your balls in the shower. You will gently hand wash the surface while checking for lumps, bumps, and weird growths. Statistically, everyone watching this video is a dude in his 30s, so you know what I mean. This helps you remove debris and dirt while sorting out any potentially funky or rotten tomatoes. Make sure you pull off the stems, as they don't pickle well and can damage other tomatoes. Let soak for about half an hour. Now you will weigh out 3% of the total weight of tomatoes in salt for your brine. You can adjust this percentage from anywhere between 2 and 5% depending on your desired salinity. The water you use needs to be boiled to sanitize your brine to be. Add about 85% of the measured salt in the initial boil. The rest will be added at the end as a salt cap. Add hard aromatics to the boil like allspice, bay leaves, and peppercorns to make a salt soup for your tomatoes' extended slumber in the briny deep. Line the bottom of your barrel to create a bed for your tomatoes to sit atop. Make sure you have enough herbs on hand to do this multiple times. You will do this in between each and every new layer of tomatoes, creating a high-rise layer cake of savory herbal goodness inside your barrel. Cut peppers, peel garlic and horseradish, slice onions. Whatever you plan on fermenting with your tomatoes to give them some added oomph.
feel free to experiment here with seasoning and spices as well. Now we construct our tomato citadel. Starting at the bottom with the largest and firmest tomatoes, you will create a single layer of tomatoes with them touching but not overlapping, sprinkling in garlic, peppers, onions, horseradish, and whatever else you will flavor them with. Top with another layer of herbs. I'm sure that you can just dump them into a massive barrel and let them sit as is, but this extra step ensures adequate surface area and uniform pickling. Then do it again, and again, and again, and again, and yet again. I almost flew too close to the sun on this one and nearly lost my salted grape leaf wings. Save room for a weight at the top to sink any floaters. I had to remove this top layer after I stopped filming. Once the brine has cooled from crotch-melting McDonald's coffee hot to neglected Missouri motel hot tub warm, start pouring in your brine. Supplement with more pre-boiled water if needed. Finish with the last of your salt to create a salt cap that will hinder bacteria and mold development at the surface during the beginning of your fermentation and will eventually incorporate into the brine over time. This will give your friendly bacteria a head start and help prevent a nasty pickle infection on the surface. Then add your weight to keep everything submerged and seal up your barrel or jar and store in a cool, clean, dry place. Now for the hardest part, waiting for them to ferment.
Alright, so through the magic of film editing, we are now 2 weeks in the future and our tomatoes should in theory be ready. So I'm hoping that there's nothing alive in there that we don't want to be alive. There's probably going to be some yeast, maybe a thin layer of some sort of film. But as long as there's nothing fuzzy in there or clumped into a solid mass, I think that we'll be fine. I think that the brine should be very cloudy. If done correctly in the barrels, the brine becomes almost milky in appearance. So fingers crossed that's what we're looking at here. And I also use sort of a lower salt level than some people do because one of my complaints is that when you pickle tomatoes, you over-salt them, and then it sort of overrides the beautiful sweetness of the tomato. So, with all that being said, I guess we'll crack her open. So, I'm going to sample these with a little bit of vodka. And also, with the vodka, I'm going to compare the tomatoes with another factory-made brand. So fermented versus factory made. And let's get to it. Cheers. Okay. Oh, came off way easier than I thought. Yeah, so it looks good. So you see that little bit of fuzz along the top. That's that calm yeast. I don't see anything with hair. I don't see anything in sort of a singular mass. So I think that this is within the acceptable range of weirdness. It smells amazing. It smells really, really cool. So I guess we'll pull this weight out and then dive in. Yo, everything's wet. Oh God, that looks so beautiful. So yeah, you see that's that murky sort of brine that you're kind of looking for. And then as we move this around, yeah, you'll see that there's that lactobacteria sort of film. That's where that color comes from. And it's not quite as murky as I hoped it would be, but it's getting there. So I think that as this sits, it will become more and more and more in line with what we're looking for. So I guess now nothing's left but to try it. So when I barreled these, I put the bigger, firmer ones at the bottom and then sort of went up to the softer, smaller ones. So these should be quite soft. Oh, it's very warm. It smells very funky too. So with natural fermentation, you're going to get way weirder flavors, way bolder flavors than you do with sort of a vinegar-based pickling. And this has not been refrigerated either. So I think a little bit later in the season, this would be better, like the last great harvest of tomatoes. But I wanted to make sure that this video was out in time for anyone that wanted to do it themselves. So the tomato is still quite firm. It's definitely got some soft, squishiness to it, but it feels like it's super juicy. So here we go. My fermented barrel-aged tomatoes. Wow, there is so much happening there. The texture is absolutely perfect. The sort of aromatics that I added in here really adjusted that flavor a lot. I think that the brine could have been a little bit saltier, but that's a powerful, punchy, really, really flavorful tomato that you're not going to get from a sort of brine based in vinegar. I'm curious how much of the flavor has been added by the barrel. I'm not really getting any heavy notes from it, but again, you wouldn't just because there's fermentation within here. But I think that as it continues to ferment, it's going to keep pulling these flavors out. And then I'm curious if as the barrel is used over and over again, will it become more and more impactful in terms of the flavor that it adds. I'm going to try one of the old school store-bought tomatoes. Okay. This is the same tomato brand that I used in the Canned Foods SOU video. So again, sort of that soft mushiness with these little spots on it indicating pickling. This actually smells sweeter. Maybe they put sugar in the brine. But this one, it's got aromatics in the jar. Oh, shit, I almost dropped that. Oh my God. And I think that this will be way sweeter, but this is so soft. I think these have been in here for forever. So this is definitely going to be a flavor bomb. Cheers. Standard pickled tomato stuff, very straightforward. There's not a lot of complexity. Again, I don't think there's any fermentation happening here. It's just pickling. I think that they add sugar to the brine because I'm getting a lot of sweetness from it. Whereas this, it's sort of like a third of the flavor that's happening, and here it's more like 70% of the flavor. You're getting a lot of sweetness. But this is still very good. This one's getting a little mushy. Damn it! I dropped it.
And it exploded.
Oh, this one's sufficiently soft. Damn it. Been pressed up against horseradish. Oh, this is really soft. Oh my. This one's going to explode. Oh my God. Oh my God. That is the best tomato I've had in my life, fresh or otherwise. So the skin had split on it, and all of the sort of fermented juices have gone inside it. And when it exploded, it had way more sweetness than the first two had, which was what I was looking for. But with that addition of that tangy fermented note, and then all of those herbal notes, and then that bit of salt, it's so cool. That is exactly what I'm looking for. I am so excited about that. That's so cool. Oh my God. I feel good. I feel good. I was terrified that this would have gone bad and I would have had to do it again and wait 2 more weeks. So if you guys have access to a barrel or a bochka, whatever, maybe you can just even put like a stick of oak wood inside of a pickle jar just to sort of simulate the notes that this is going to add. But I really encourage you to try fermentation and not pickling because this has really added a lot. That last tomato was just divine. Absolutely divine. I'm so hyped. This has just come out as a grand success. So please, if you're curious about this at all, give it a go and let me know what you guys think. Have you ever pickled in a barrel before? And if not, maybe you should. So as I'm wrapping up the edit, doing the voiceover and all that stuff and getting the video ready for launch, a week has passed between my review and today. So we're now 3 weeks into the fermentation, so I thought that this would be worth a little update because it's just so incredible. The tomatoes have become even better. So they're really at sort of a peak, I guess. Maybe they'll continue to get better, but they just continue to surprise me. The salt is in balance. It was a little weak before. All of the herbal notes have sort of melded into a single symphony instead of tasting individual parts. And it's just really become perfection. They're so good. The sweet, salt, funk, all of it is together and in perfect harmony. The brine has become that milky sort of consistency and color that I described. It's thicker. It's got a really cool flavor in and of its own right. And most importantly, the garlic has begun to ferment. So the brine is perfect, the tomatoes are perfect, and now the garlic is perfect too. It's got that big, bold bite, but it's been tamed a bit, and a little bit of that funk as well that you don't get with a vinegar pickle. Guys, I don't know how many of you watch my videos just for the amusement and the spectacle, but this is something that really should be attempted at home. Even if you don't have a barrel, just get a jar, a mason jar, something like that, a ceramic pot, and give fermented tomatoes a go at home. These are super incredible, really. So just wanted to do that update and create a new outro. Again, let me know if you guys are trying these at home, because I think that this is something that's really incredible. And it's a cool hobby to have. So, thank you guys very much for your time. I hope you enjoy your pickling adventure. And, as always, till next time. Press F for respect.